Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story begins on a cold evening when the city lights were just starting to fade and the shadows grew longer along the sidewalks. The CEO of a powerful tech company had just finished a late board meeting. His mind was crowded with numbers, deadlines, and decisions that affected thousands of employees. He was known as a man who never slowed down, never looked back, and never let emotions get in the way of business. But that night, fate had other plans for him. As he stepped out of his black car near a quiet park on the edge of the city, he heard a small, trembling voice behind him. It was soft, almost lost in the sound of the wind rustling through the trees. "Ma'am, I can't find my daddy." The CEO froze. The word ma'am surprised him, but what truly stopped him was the fear in the little girl's voice. He turned around and saw her standing near the park gate, her tiny hands clenched into fists, her eyes wide and shining with tears. She couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Her jacket was too thin for the cold, and her shoes were dusty. As if she had been walking for a long time, the CEO looked around instinctively, expecting to see a parent rushing toward them, calling her name. But the park was nearly empty, and the trees beyond the path looked dark and endless. He knelt slightly so he wouldn't tower over her. His voice, usually sharp and commanding, softened without him realizing it. He asked her name and where she had last seen her father. She sniffed and told him her name was Emma. She said her daddy had taken her for a walk in the woods because he promised her a surprise. They had followed a narrow trail, and then she stopped to look at a butterfly. When she turned back, her daddy was gone. The CEO felt a strange tightness in his chest. He had no children of his own, no family waiting for him at home, just a large empty house and a schedule that never ended. He glanced at his watch, thinking of the important call he was supposed to make. But when Emma reached out and grabbed his coat with her small hand, all those thoughts faded. She looked up at him and whispered that she was scared of the dark woods. The wind blew again, and the trees seemed to sway, as if urging them deeper into the shadows. The CEO hesitated for only a moment before making a decision he never would have made before. He told her he would help her find her daddy. He took off his expensive jacket and gently wrapped it around her shoulders. It was too big for her, but she smiled faintly, comforted by the warmth. Together, they walked toward the narrow trail leading into the woods. With every step, the sounds of the city disappeared behind them. The CEO used his phone's flashlight to guide their way, the beam cutting through the darkness. Emma stayed close, holding his hand tightly, as if afraid he might vanish to dot. As they moved deeper into the woods, the CEO called out for her father, his voice echoing between the trees. There was no answer, only the distant hoot of an owl and the crunch of leaves under their feet. Emma began to cry quietly, and each sob felt like a weight pressing on his heart. He realized how helpless she must feel, and how much trust she had placed in a stranger. They reached a small clearing where the trail split into two paths. The CEO stopped, unsure which way to go. He noticed small footprints in the dirt, some overlapping, some fading. He followed them, hoping they would lead to answers. Emma suddenly pointed ahead and said she thought she heard her daddy's voice earlier near the old wooden bridge. The bridge was narrow and creaked under their weight as they crossed it. Below, a shallow stream reflected the moonlight. The CEO's heart pounded, not from fear of the woods, but from the responsibility he now carried. He realized that if anything happened to this little girl, he would never forgive himself. On the other side of the bridge, they finally heard a voice calling out a name, Emma. It was faint but desperate. Emma gasped and shouted back, her voice full of hope. They followed the sound until they saw a man stumbling toward them, his face pale with panic and relief all at once. The man ran forward and dropped to his knees, pulling Emma into his arms. Tears streamed down his face as he apologized over an Obro, saying he had slipped on the trail and hit his head. When he got back up, Emma was gone. He had been searching for hours, terrified of what might have happened to her. The CEO watched the reunion quietly, feeling something shift deep inside. Emma's father stood up and thanked him, again and again, his voice shaking with emotion. He said he didn't know what he would have done if his daughter hadn't been found. Emma looked up at the CEO and hugged him tightly, her small arms wrapping around his waist. She told him he was brave for following her into the dark woods. That moment, the CEO felt a warmth he had never felt before. It wasn't pride or success or power. It was something simpler and stronger. It was the feeling of being needed, of making a real difference in someone's life. They all walked back toward the park together. The city lights welcomed them back, bright and familiar. Emma's father offered to give the CEO anything he wanted as a reward, but the CEO shook his head. He said seeing Emma safe was more than enough. Before they parted ways, Emma handed the CEO a small paper bracelet she had made earlier that day. She said it was her lucky bracelet and that she wanted him to have it so he wouldn't be scared when he was alone. The CEO smiled, carefully slipping it into his pocket as if it were priceless. Later that night, back in his quiet house, the CEO sat alone in his living room. The board meeting, the deadlines, the important call he had missed all felt distant and unimportant. He took the paper bracelet out and looked at it for a long time. He realized that for the first time in years, his heart felt full. The next day, he made changes no one expected. He left the office early, started volunteering with local charities, and even funded a program to help lost and missing children. Whenever someone asked him why he had changed, he would think of a little girl's trembling voice in the dark and a small hand clutching his coat. Because sometimes, life doesn't change you through big deals or powerful decisions. Sometimes, it changes you through a single moment, a quiet cry for help, and the choice to follow that cry into the dark woods.